everybody, and welcome to GenFriends. I'm your host, Cheri Hudson Passey from Carolina Girl Genealogy. And with me is my wonderful panel and a very, very special guest. So let's get some introductions going so that we can start talking. We have Melissa Barker, our archive lady. Hi, Melissa.
Hello, everybody.
Good to see you here. And we also have Laura Hedgecock from Treasure Chest of Memories. Hi, Laura.
Hi.
It's good to have you here too.
Good to be here.
We've got Shelley Murphy, whom I never can introduce correctly. Our family.
Don't say anything else. Shelley Murphy is enough. Glad to be here on Saturday.
We are doing a very, very special recording of GenFriends because of our special guest. With us live on GenFriends is none other than Nathan Dylan Goodwin, who is our genealogical crime mystery writer. Woo! We are, I should say, straight from his office.
My man cave.
Man cave, where he creates all these wonderful characters and these stories that we love so much. And we invited Nathan on because, unless I'm sure you've heard of this, unless you've been living under a rock. Morton, let's see if we can hold it up. Morton 9, I'm trying to get it, is out.
I have it on Kindle.
you notice the red and the red? So I wore red to match the book.
Oh, very nice, Cheri.
Half my house is red, so that counts.
Yeah.
There you go. The Foundlings is the latest in the series. It's amazing. It is such a good, Nathan, I was telling my husband, I said, I've been reading these books, and then I met Nathan, and it's hard to understand where, not that you couldn't write this, that's not what I'm saying, but to meet an author of a book, and then where does this stuff come from? I'm in awe of you, is what I'm trying to say, knowing you in person, and then the books. Laura, do you know what I'm trying to say?
I think knowing him in person. I think that's where you're going wrong.
Yeah, and I don't mean it that way. I would probably think that. I would think that of anybody. How's anybody? You are brilliant with this, Nathan. You're absolutely brilliant. And it's so wonderful. It's so wonderful to be able to meet you and think to myself, oh my gosh, and I can imagine you writing these books, right? So amazing. This one deals with foundlings. We're talking about children that are left. There's a connection with Morton's family in it, and so we were talking before. How much do we tell?
Are you giving it all away?
No, I don't want to. We're giving it away. There's a connection, and you know what else I really liked about this too is you dealt with, sometimes these connections are not easy connections. Right. And sometimes there's a moral dilemma. What do I do with this information that I found? So I liked that too, that you did that. And that must have been, was that difficult to write? Did you go back and forth with how do I write this?
Yes, it was. Because I think there's this kind of idea that generally when you find something in DNA, it leads to a happy ending, and it's all very clear cut. Great, I found this new relative, and it's all wonderful. But it's happening more and more that actually people find things that they didn't anticipate, or that actually it's quite difficult to. It's that dilemma of how do I tell that person that I know this fact about their family that they were not aware of, and if so, how do I do that? And you don't know how they're going to react, and so I kind of wanted to explore that a little bit. That actually it's not all great answers and great results, and always ends in a kind of a happy end in there. So it's quite difficult, but I wanted to, because I kind of had similar in my own experiences. I found something in a DNA match that I've kind of had to sit on based on other family members saying, no, that person can't be told. And I'm like, I can't, it's very hard for me to sit on that information, knowing these facts. And I'm thinking, I don't think it's my place to.
Right. It's not your story to tell. Yeah.
No, exactly. But it's also not my story to hold back. So I think
it's hard.
I don't know what to do, you know.
I'm not going to give it away, but I liked how you handled it in the book. So for anybody that hasn't read it, if you
don't
if you
tell
have, no, I won't. But if you have and have been wondering about those kind of things, this is a good example of a great way to handle that type of situation. So and also, go ahead, Laura.
Even though this is fiction, I loved it as well. We cover relative race, Nathan. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but
yeah, we don't get it over here, but I'm aware of the show.
Which
yeah,
really is largely happy endings, and so kind of as we were looking at relative race coming up, we were reading this, and I found it much more realistic with what I know of other people. When the DNA doesn't tell them who they are, it makes them question everything they know.
Yeah.
And look at the people they've known all their life quite differently.
Yes.
So I thought it was a much more intriguing way to handle it. Because then, like, what are they going to do with it? Where is this going to go?
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that.
And it's interesting because the question I was going to ask is how much of this is actually some of your own research, which you kind of identified that. And it also puts you as the researcher in the family in that awkward position. Now I know something that the others don't know. And that is very stressful. It really is when you get that kind of information.
And there doesn't seem to be a definite right way forwards because, you know, everybody's different. And so how people react to those situations or how they would advise you to deal with it is very different. And so it's,
exactly.
Yeah, it's quite hard. But to follow up on your question, Shelley, there was also, I don't think it's giving too much away to say that the book is kind of picking up on some loose threads from the previous book, the Sterling Affair. And so Morton is charged with trying to find out the biological mother of these foundlings using he only has their DNA. There's no other information or records to go on. And so that's kind of the gist of the book. But in the research stage, I interviewed. I was trying to find a policeman or police person who was active in the 70s, so that I would get the police procedural aspects correct. You know, what cars did you drive? What was your police station like? What was your day-to-day work? And in between lockdowns last year, I was able to go and interview this officer who was in Sussex Police in the 70s when the book is set. And he was telling me the procedural stuff, but interestingly, he also was the first person on scene and the detective who investigated a foundling who was left in a phone box in Haywards Heath, which is the picture on the book cover. And so that was a real story, and he basically told me how he investigated. There's the phone box, and it's that location is the real location, and he told me how he solved that, found the parents of this foundling. And I used some of those aspects in the book, and then obviously fictionalized the rest of it. So there are a few real people and real stories in there as well.
I like that you said you also interviewed your mother.
I did, yes.
The horrors of childbirth.
Different perspective, and also how to make childbirth is okay.
But I couldn't quite believe what she was saying. She said, like, in the 70s, I know you think I was probably born in the 80s or the 90s, but I was born in the 70s. And she said, it was very strict that, once you'd had the baby, it was put, the mothers were put into one ward and the babies were put in another. And you only went there to feed them or change them. You didn't go there to cuddle them or just to hold them or be with them, and it was really strict, that they were told off. If you were found by the matron going to your baby for no reason, then you were told off and get back to your bed. And there were very strict visiting hours, and there was kind of, I think it was something like 2 till 3 p.m. the father was allowed, and then from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Other family, and that was it. The father couldn't just turn up, and and it's so strict. And it wasn't even that just that hospital. That was that was the way it was, and you stayed in for 10 days. While just afterwards, whereas now it's kind of you're in and you're out.
That's right. You're exactly.
If you're lucky.
Exactly.
So very very interesting experience there. So.
That's very interesting, because I wasn't sure whether the matron was more of your creation or if she was typical. So that's very, very interesting that wasn't just that one hospital.
It's a bit of both, actually. Yeah, my mum said that the midwife and the matron, they were just really, really strict, and she said they were both interestingly, they were both like spinsters and childless, and so she felt that they didn't really have that experience of having children, so they were not treating them very well. But we survived. I'm here. So.
No lawsuits yet, right? They messed you up in the hospital because they wouldn't let your mom hold you the whole time. Melissa, you said you have a question?
Yes, I'm always love your descriptions of places in your books, and this one you have a pretty detailed description of Reno, Nevada.
Yeah.
And I just wondered, were you ever in Reno, or was that just from research?
It wasn't me. It was my lookalike. No, I think I went through Reno a few years ago. No, that was really done through research. So there's quite a few video clips on YouTube actually of Reno at the time. So that gave me the description of driving through to the Pick Hobson's hotel. And I've been to Las Vegas a few times. When I go to Roots Tech, I fly into there, and I leave as quickly as I can, to be honest. It's not my favorite place, but I can kind of imagine that Vegas and Reno were quite similar back in the day. So it was mainly from research.
Okay.
You research a lot of the places. It's not like you're in your head, you're just making up, this is what the town's going to look like, and this is the records that may be there. You actually go and do research in these places. And what's really fun is, as you're writing the books, you will give us little clues and hints, because you're at these places and you're like, this is where I am now. What do you think I'm writing about?
Yeah.
So it's really fun. And most of
Follow
it's just
him on Twitter.
Well, and most of it is just stop it and go back and write.
No, I think it's really important, and I find that if I do the research, I mean, obviously I can't go to every single location, but for the most part I try, which is kind of also why the books are set, the modern parts are set in Kent and Sussex, because it's accessible for me, so I can just go there. But I do make sure the research stage takes as long as it needs for that can be books, that can be internet, that can be going to libraries and archives and locations. I find it really helps in the writing phase, and actually feeds into it and gives further ideas and further characters. And when I started the first book, Hide in the Past, I did start the first draft. It was a fictionalized village. And I thought, somewhere in Sussex, and I made up a town name. I can't remember what it was. I thought, why am I doing this? There's plenty of lovely places that would fit the bill, and actually I can then use real archives relating to that place. And so I changed it.
Brilliant.
And and I've only ever, since then, I've never done a fictionalized location.
Laura, you've got a question?
Good.
Yeah, but I'd like to follow up with the accusation that he spends too much time on Twitter. He is the most productive author I know.
Yes.
I work with Detroit working writers, and most people do not turn around an excellent piece of fiction like he does. So
exactly, I agree.
Now I have to remember my I know my question. My question was about your interest in DNA, because what was it called? Chester Creek
Murders. Dun,
yes.
dun, dun. Yeah.
The Chester Creek
murders.
So that had a very strong DNA thread running through this. We see some DNA threads. Is this a new interest of Morton's? Is this a direction Morton's going to continue going on, or was this just a little dabble that he had and he's going back to more archive research?
I felt with Morton like it's kind of a bit of an evolution across the series, actually. So he's kind of done more and more as it's become more and more of a thing for genealogists, and he's followed the path that I've done. I think I might have said before, but he took his first DNA test back in The Orange Lilies in the 3rd book, and he did it in a way that I had to do in 2014, which was I ordered a test kit from Ancestry US to my friend in America, and in Pennsylvania, she sent it to me. I took the test, I sent it back to her, she sent it to Ancestry, because you couldn't get them over here.
You couldn't,
so,
right?
No, so I mean, my results list, obviously it was, because it was mainly Americans, my results list were just, I didn't know anybody. It was all 3rd to 5th cousins or beyond, but it's obviously improved there. So he's started in a similar way, and there's been more and more more and more DNA usage in the Morton books, but they haven't completely dominated. Whereas like Chester Creek Murders is very much, solving a murder case.
Right.
You base just on DNA and nothing else, and then the records obviously start to come in from that. So I think he'll use a bit, but it's interesting actually with people that have reviewed the book, both the books, like they completely love it in Chester Creek Murders, and yet in the Foundlings they're kind of like it's a bit too much, bit too DNA heavy, And it's interesting. I think they want Morton to keep the way he does things, like going to the archives.
Yeah.
Well, and he wasn't, if I'm remembering right, he wasn't actually chased by a bad guy in this one. He didn't locked it up in the boot of the car, anything like that.
He hasn't been for a while, actually. He hasn't been since book 5. He's been left alone since then.
Yeah,
So left alone. It's
so
time, right?
Something right.
It's time. To know what I also love too. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say on that line is, because I'm an archivist, please continue to take Morton to archives.
Oh yes, yeah. He would always do that. I love that part as well. I do. I mean,
for those of us, and I talk to a lot of other archivists who read your books as well. We like that aspect of the books because we as archivists have to continually educate not only the genealogy community, but the community in general about what we do, where, what's in our archives, what do you do? And I'm asked that question all the time, what do you do? And so having these books, having him
she turns pages.
I know. So yeah.
Even
it's,
the cranky ones, Melissa, even the cranky ones, the ones that
yes.
I'll let Morton sneak pictures of the records.
Yes. So,
or it slips out while they're walking by. It slips out.
I love her. She's like, we've all known her, whether she was an archivist or a librarian or something. We've all known her.
I think I attract them though, because I seem to just find them, and sometimes I find them and I say to other people, like, do you find that in that particular record office? And they say no. So I think it's just me.
It's you. It's just you. Me. Oh, that's too funny.
They're crying out for you. They want to be written in your book.
They want to be in the book. That's exactly. I recognize you. But I was going to say, I love it. Chapter 1, it's always, you always start out with Morton Farrier was, and then there's some kind of, I love whatever word you're going to use next.
I've had to write a list now of the adjectives I've used because I think I can't
this one is exasperated. This one is exasperated. Yeah. So I just love that you.
He was getting the Christmas tree from. That's the place where I get mine from, coincidentally. So
does that tell us something about how you felt when you were getting the Christmas
exactly?
It can be a bit when Harrison, my 9-year-old, decides to choose something really, like a 30-foot tree. I'm like, no. What about this spindly little one down here? No, can we have somewhere in between?
Somewhere in between,
that fits in the house, preferably.
and people that haven't read the books before, and shame on you if you haven't. But so, I love that Morton, his character, the family, everything progresses, and you your relationships, Morton's relationships with his family, they're just beautiful. They're wonderful. They're true to life. they're funny. But congratulations to Morton for his new son that
Yes.
that he has, and the interesting name that he has, which we won't divulge here because we don't want to mess that up. But they're just fun because you learn to love the character, and then you want to see what's going to happen to him next, and then you just get sucked right in, and you can't put them down. So they're just, even a new book comes out, you're going to get it, and you just tell everybody else, leave me alone for a while because I'm going to be reading. But on the other hand, people are using this one as case studies for how to do DNA.
Yeah, I've heard that a few times. Yeah.
That is amazing to be able to write a book. I mean, because DNA can be very, very difficult. So to write a book that people in the industry are using to walk people through cases, that must feel so good.
Yeah, it does feel very, very good actually. Because when I finished it, I was just thinking, because I wouldn't say I was an expert by any means, but I've tried to keep up to date, and I've tried to learn, and I've tried to make sure it's really accurate, and I'm not taking any jumps or over fictionalizing it and taking my author's license there. And so when I sent a copy to Blaine and to Angie Bush and various other people, Johnny Pearl, and I was thinking, please don't go, that's completely wrong. But they were all very they certainly didn't tell me of any major flaws or errors. And I have heard that a few people have said, if you want to know how it's done, then read that book, even though it's fictional, that will help you.
Yeah, because a story always makes it easier to relate than
than the straight cold facts.
Exactly. I'm Shelley. I'm sorry, Shelley, you've got a
it's a related question in linking to DNA, and you gave such limited time for Morton to research this, and then all the bombing stuff that's going to come out. So in your own research versus what, you wrote in the book, that limit of, what was it, 5 days, 6 days, or whatever it was to find all of that. I mean, where did that come from? Because I know of your research in DNA, but he's such an expert, in this path. 6 days?
Yeah, that was purely like he wouldn't normally give a case such a short amount of time. It's purely because he was going to go down.
Gets one.
Yeah, he managed it. I wouldn't be able to do it in about 6 months, but he managed it. Yeah, that was purely like a story aspect. He needed it wrapped up before Christmas, basically, and just.
But he covered the point, so that was more of it.
Yeah. He works fast.
Well, and that just shows you're a fabulous writer, because you can do that. You can keep the story going. You can keep everybody interested. And also you're teaching from beginning people that don't know much about, because you put the DNA in this one. I'm sure there were a lot of people that the DNA clicked as you were writing this, and then they can go on to, and even if you don't understand DNA, even if you read your DNA series, they're still going to get it, but they're going to love the story too. So, my mom read it and she goes, DNA and I don't get along. So I kind of skimmed through trying to learn, but I read the rest of it for the story and she loved it. So you don't have to be a DNA expert. You don't have to be a genealogy expert. You don't have to any of those things. You read them for the story. And then if you learn some research techniques along the way, and you will, if you're interested in learning that, if you're interested in learning some DNA techniques along the way, you'll do that too. So they're books for everybody. Yeah. And if you love good mysteries, you'll love these too. So what do you have coming up? Because I heard a little rumor that you're working on one of each right now. Is that true?
Well, I've started on the follow-up to Chester Creek Murders, so the second Venator.
Great.
So I've started that, and then I kind of with all of the books, I have ideas for a few books ahead. And so when I finished the Foundlings, so the 9th Morton book, I then started to think a bit more about, well, where's this leading to in Morton 10? And so I started to put more ideas into my Scrivener file, and then that kind of I don't know, Morton was just there, and I just wrote the first, I think it was 800 and something words. Just it got going, and I thought, hang on a minute, I need to stop on this one. This is just my ideas, and then go back to Venator too. Yeah. So anyway, I don't think I'm going to work on them really simultaneously. I think I'm going to get Venator 2 done. But yeah, Morton's waiting.
He's waiting. I love how you say Morton kind of took over.
Yeah, he's just there. Yeah, and I have a feeling the book 10 is probably going to be the longest and probably the most complicated and that I've done. If the ideas are anything to go by.
Oh wow! Oh wow! Yeah. And I think I've asked you this before, but do you have? Where are you seeing? Do you have? Just like maybe 14, 15, how many Morton books do you have outlined or are thinking about?
So I always know
we won't hold you to it, but just
so I've got Scrivener files that I use to do writing in. I've got files set up for 10, 11, 12 and 13.
Oh
wow!
Right.
Yay.
That's actually exciting.
That is very exciting.
And there are other ideas floating around, but they're and they tend to grow as I get closer to them. You know, obviously, like 13 is a long way off yet, but 10 is gathering momentum, and so plenty more to come yet.
Yeah. And see, that's kind of what I was trying to say at the beginning. I'm fascinated with your mind and how your mind does that, because when you're just sitting talking to somebody, you don't realize that inside there, a story is creating, and I just think that's the coolest thing ever to know that, know somebody who's creating stories like that. I just think that's the most wonderful thing. And I know Laura creates stories. All of us create stories in one way or the other with our family history. And so it's just interesting to think what's going on in everybody's mind as they're thinking about the characters that they're dealing with, either in their families or you for your 2 series. So I just think that's really cool. And I love how you speak about them as if they're real people.
They probably are. Isn't there a thing called about protecting the innocents?
Well, they're real. They're real to us now that we're reading them. All the characters, and that's what makes a good book, is when the characters become real to you.
Yeah.
And you want to talk to Nathan and say hi to Morton, or say hi to.
I love Juliet.
What's Grace doing today, or that kind of thing. So
I love Juliet. I love how she keeps him in check. When he has some of his ideas of something that's going to happen, and she sets him straight.
wanting her to bring you up some coffee or tea or something all the way up. She's 7 months pregnant. No.
As you're reading it, you're like, no, say you're not going
to ask her to do that.
They're a good couple. They're a good couple. I really liked the interactions. I really wanted from the beginning to make him, but in fact not the very first draft of Hide in the Past, but kind of once Hide in the Past was out. So I thought I really want them to work as a couple, because very often these detective types, they're very much like single men that can't hold down relationships. And I thought, no, he's going to be able to, and she can be, a balance to him, and a bit of a normal life as well,
Exactly. They're so fun. Melissa, you said you had a question?
Oh yeah, and I may have asked you this question the last time you were on, but it's something I'm always fascinated by. You self-publish your books, correct?
Yes.
What I mean, at some point you had to make a decision to do that, and so I just wondered what brought you to that decision, because I am an aspiring writer, like a lot of us are. I have tons of things that I would like to write books about, but where's the time when you work full time? But so what brought you to that decision?
So basically, I've got lots of friends who have published traditionally, and they either completely can't work as full-time writers because the royalties are so low, or they're tied into contracts that are just terrible financially and creatively. And I took the decision very early. Well, with the first book, I just thought, I heard about Amazon's KDP. It's a subsidiary of Amazon, basically, and I heard about that and looked into it. And I like the creative aspect of it, that I'm completely in control. I know some people don't like that I have to find my own cover designer, and I have to do all of the marketing and promoting. Nobody does that for me. I have to do all that, and some people don't like that. But the royalties side of it, I get 70% of royalties from Kindle sales after production costs, which are minimal for Kindle, obviously, because it's all digital. And 60% of paperback royalties after production, which is obviously much heavier because of the printing costs. So it's enabled me to work as a full-time writer rather than doing another job and trying to struggle to find the time to write. And it would take a very, very massive offer from a traditional publisher to get me to change now. I'm really happy with it. I love it, and
that's great.
It works for me.
Yeah, more and more authors are going that route, and I've actually heard another nonfiction historian writer say that the publisher that the person used to work with has stopped actually doing a lot of publicity for their authors, that they have to actually do it on their own. So if they're going to have to do it on their own, why not publish?
Why not?
That is true of a lot of the smaller houses. They're doing less and less of the promotion, and that more and more is falling on the author to. There's a book, Melissa, called APE, and it's author, publisher, entrepreneur is what that stands for. And it talks a lot about making that decision. It's a few years old, but I think it could really prepare you to, am I ready for that? Because it is the business side. It is more lucrative, but it also means that is your business. You're not going to just write a book and be done with it, send it out to the house and let them go with it.
I have to spend quite a bit of time on the marketing and promotion side of things, and the business side. I don't, like Laura said, I don't just write it and send it off and it's gone and someone else deals with everything. I have to do that, but I'm quite happy to do that. I enjoy all that side of things too. And obviously I have to maintain my own website and everything else and social media stuff, but I totally wouldn't. I'm really happy with it. I wouldn't go with a traditional publisher, really. And I think.
I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish.
I was just going to say that lots of the big publishing houses over here as well. I've heard from people that work in them. They spend 90% of their marketing budget on 10% of their authors, and it's the top 10% who already make them money. If J.K. Rowling brings out a new book, you're going to see it on every single bus and every single, even though it would have sold brilliantly anyway. But they then, so if you're the lower end of things, then you don't really stand a chance, and you might be tied into some contract with less than 10% royalties. That's where I am with it. I really like KDP, and I would suggest looking at it if you're ready to publish something.
But you also have a little more control, and I think that's important of what, that you remain in control. And if you go other routes, you might lose some of that, and so definitely a great tip, for people,
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. When my first book was traditionally published, and I really wanted it to be called Treasure Chest of Memories, and then the same subtitle, and they thought it sounded too old. They wanted it, and it is Memories of Me, a complete guide to telling and sharing stories for your life. And I still to this day think it should have been, I should have stuck to my guns more, but it's hard. You get in with these people that are professionals, and what do I know? This is my first book, and it's hard. And
Yeah.
then by the same token, if it's your first book, it's hard to make those decisions because you don't have that
You
experience.
don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my last question is, okay, this would make a fantastic movie or miniseries.
Oh, yeah.
See, that's exactly what I said. I think
Yes.
that's what I was going to say. I'm thinking.
I'm wondering
Netflix
if you
series.
have you gotten any kind of offers or nibbles or anything?
No.
Oh,
Okay, we need to start a campaign.
You
We've
give
got
up
to
all
start
the
a campaign.
creative
Let's start a
control.
campaign
Don't do
because
it.
even Hallmark has its movies and mystery series. That'd be perfect, or
Yeah.
something on Netflix.
Netflix.
Or
It
something
would be
like that.
great.
I'm thinking the
Yeah.
BBC needs to pick this
Yeah.
up and make it a miniseries.
Well,
I
we
do
got
hear
the
it a
new,
lot.
the new Angela Lansbury. We have Morton.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I do hear it a lot from people that
Yeah.
they say it would make a good series, and but no one's approached me yet. So I'm waiting
Right.
for that $1 million deal.
What are we gonna do, girls? We got to figure
I
something
know,
out
we
here.
got to do it.
I would love that. I think it would be the best thing. It'd be so great. It'd be so great. And then we get more than, what did you say, 13? We'd get more probably because
Yeah.
to keep the series going,
Yeah.
you have to
Yes.
keep writing.
Keep
Well, then it was
writing,
a win-win.
writing.
So then it
It's a
makes me start
win-win.
thinking about, what actor would play Morton,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I used to think, but because this was a few years ago now, they would probably be, if it was starting to be filmed now, they'd be too old. But I really like this actor. You probably won't know him. He was in Foyle's War. He was the son of Foyle. He's called Julian Ovenden, an actor for Morton, and Keely Hawes, another British actress for Juliet. You have to Google them, Julian Ovenden and Keely Hawes, but they're born the same year as me, so
Right.
they're getting a bit old now. If it's going to be, starting back at the beginning, otherwise she'll be giving birth in her 50s.
Well, write a script and send it to them and say, hey, I want you to do this
Yeah.
in your spare time while you're not writing the other things and redoing your new home. So
Yeah.
you've got all those.
I have a request for Morton.
Okay.
I think he needs to come to the US and dive into some of the US archives and things like that. And then it would give an opportunity for him to be lost because things are totally different, or maybe the archivist is
Well,
like in Tennessee
and the
and
family
super friendly
can
and
link from
I was
helpful.
going to say,
And
the
he could
archivist
just
in
blow it away.
Tennessee.
Yeah, I was going to offer that if he ever comes to the U.S., he's welcome to come to the Houston County, Tennessee archives, and you can use my name.
Nathan, remember Headcorn? All those people came
Yeah.
into New York, and the archives and things is there. There, New York, New Jersey, out right on into Virginia.
That could be a
Look at us.
story, couldn't it?
It could.
That
Look
be a
at us
story.
writing the
And
next
there's a
Morton.
murder involved in there too, and they know about the murder, but I don't know if you're aware of it. But the Borden family, and you can go look
Oh,
that
yes,
up.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the ones that come out of Kent. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
they came on in this country. So you could do a whole book.
There we go. No, we just wrote Morton 14.
There we go.
No, the whole series now. Yeah.
We have so many crazies here. There's plenty.
I know.
Exactly.
Oh, God.
Well, did anybody else have any more questions for Nathan?
I'm just excited
Yeah.
for him and so happy
I'm-
for him.
I know. I'm so glad.
you.
And Nathan, is there anything that we didn't ask about the book or that we just didn't ask that you thought, I wish somebody would just ask me this question? Because everybody always
Like-
asks me the same
Like
question.
a question like, what would you recommend if someone was looking for a Christmas present for
Mhm.
a mystery loving relative?
Absolutely.
The Foundlings. Yeah,
And
do
those-
I have any? No, I don't have any questions. I think you should have asked. I think you've covered everything. Did we cover the book enough? Probably, yeah.
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 Well,
Yeah.
The
We're
takeaway
not
is if
giving it
people
away.
haven't read it, they should read it. And if they haven't
Right.
read any of them, they should read all of them.
Yes.
Are we agreed on
Exactly.
that?
Yeah.
We agree on that. We absolutely agree on that. So thank you for taking your afternoon to come spend some time with us.
You're
And
very welcome. Thank you for moving the time slot for me. You really wouldn't want to see me in the middle of the night. Honestly.
we would just, the things we could ask him then when he wasn't coherent. That would have been,
I would be slumped in my chair.
Anyway.
I don't see a wine glass or a beer glass sitting over there.
No, just tea. Just tea.
Just tea. We will make sure that all the links everybody can get to your books and to your website and all that are in the show notes. And with that, we will say bye to everybody, and we will see you next time on GenFriends. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.